Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall Psychic all the way from the Gold Coast. I hope you're having an absolutely sensational week wherever you are in this planet of ours. As the seasons are changing here in Australia, it's getting colder and colder by the day. I don't particularly like that. I'm a warm baby. I like the summertime. So I'm a little bit envious of the people in the Northern Hemisphere now as you're heading into those warmer months and barbecues and fun and out in the sun enjoying yourself. Well, we're all going to rug up here in front of the fire. Not that I've got a fire, but you know what I mean. So it's time for change. So when the seasons change, it's time for change in our lives as well. And sometimes I think as human beings, we resist change because it's easier to just put up with what's going on in our lives rather than sort of step out of our comfort zone and try something different and bring about something that might bring about change in our lives. Even though we desperately want it, we almost fear it. We sort of think, oh, well, I'll do that tomorrow or next week or next month or whatever. So now is the time of change. And it is a time where we really do need to embrace the changes that are coming up in our life, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. It's a time to embrace it and move forward and say, this is part of our journey here on earth. It is about change. It is about learning. It is about trying something new and stepping out of our comfort zone a little bit. So this week, the Simply Tarot card sort of reflects that a little bit. It's called the card of Temperance. Now, Temperance is one of those ambiguous sort of cards where a lot of students sort of get a little bit stuck on the card Temperance because they're not sure what it actually sort of means. Now, the card of Temperance is the card of money restrictions. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have any money. It just means money's a little bit restricted or you're purposely holding on to it because you've got some big choices or decisions to be made, or maybe some big purchases coming up or a lot of expenditure over the next couple of months. It doesn't mean that you haven't got any money. I want to be very clear on that. It's more the fact that you're restricting the flow of money out the door. And sometimes we have to do that as we save up for particular events in our lives, you know, or we've got a lot of bills coming up, things like that. The secondary meaning of this card is testing the water. Now, you probably can't see it on screen here, but her right foot is just stuck in the water, as if she's sticking a toe in the water to test the water, to see where things are going, to see, you know, what the temperature is. Is the water cold? Is it hot? So it's like a little bit like sticking your toe in the water of life, isn't it? Testing the waters to see where things go. Sometimes you've got to have a go at something. You don't know where something's going to go if you don't stick your toe in the water and have a go. So I like this card. To me, it's a very positive card. It's a very uplifting card. And I see it as quite a spiritual card with her wings there. So let's move on to the astrology section. Look, I know for months now I've been saying, in all the years I've been in astrology, which is a very long time now, I've never seen such a concentration or a configuration of planets all sitting in a very small sector of the chart, which is about 1/4. But we're still moving on with that. There is things that are slowly starting to break up and things are starting to sort of move, but we need to work through it. Now, I don't break down the 12 signs. If you're a regular viewer on the show, you know I give you what's I call my Polaroid snapshot for the week of what's actually happening in the universe right at the second before we go to air. And I leave it till that last split second so that I get the most up-to-date planetary configurations of where they're sitting and how it's best can help you for the next 7 days. So yes, we're going to be talking about particular signs, but I will be saying to you that's where the concentration is, and then it washes over the remaining 8 signs. So don't think that you're being neglected or left out, because you're certainly not. So we're going to say happy birthday to all the Taurians again. It's their time of the year to shine and sparkle. And I know there's plenty of Taurians out there. I have a few in my family that are celebrating birthdays over the next couple of weeks. So it's a very positive time. So this obviously affects Tauruses, which also affects Virgo, Capricorn, and the opposite sign of Scorpio. So the sun is sitting in Taurus at the moment. So it's sort of, you know, radiating beautiful sunshine on all our darling little Taurians. But for those in the opposite sign of Scorpio, it's a push-pull situation. It's everything's opposing everything at the moment. So be very, very careful that you don't become too dogged or determined that you can have your own way all the time, because Scorpio is a fixed sign like Taurus is, and sometimes we can get bogged down in believing we're right when we're not right, and we are too stubborn to see that there may be another possibility. So if you're a Scorpio, just be a little bit aware, particularly over the next few days, that you don't become too dogmatic in the way that you think about things. We also have the planet Venus. Now, Venus is the planet of love and affection. Now, Venus actually rules Taurus. So Venus is its ruling planet, so it feels very comfortable at home here. Venus is the things that we love to do. It's not always where we look for love relationships. It's the things that we love to do. So if you're fortunate enough to have Venus in Taurus, it usually means that you're very attractive, you've got a lovely speaking voice, possibly even potentially a lovely singing voice, and you enjoy the finer things in life. Now, it doesn't mean the other 11 signs don't appreciate art or music or creative side of life. It's just saying if you're fortunate enough to have Venus in Taurus, then you're a very, very fortunate person because you're probably incredibly stunning. And, people quite often compliment you on your looks or the way that you've got a beautiful speaking voice. And a lot of people go on to sort of do voiceover work or have a beautiful singing career that have Venus in Taurus. So it's a nice spot. If you're looking for love, well, then what you need to be doing is looking for love in the right sort of places. Venus is connected to Taurus. So Taurus is connected to things, anything that we see on a very cultural or a very creative front, but it also governs things like the food that we like to eat. Tauruses don't like to sit down to a salad for an evening meal. They like something substantial, something hearty. Put some meat on the plate, put something solid on the plate that, I've done a hard day's work. I deserve a good solid meal at the end of the day. So, if you're looking to find love, then maybe start eating out a little bit more. Go to somewhere where there's food and entertainment on, a fair or an event on the weekends or things like that. Step out of your comfort zone a little bit. Also visit things like museums and places of interest that have cultural influences and that people sort of go and enjoy. Art galleries is another suggestion. So anywhere that you find food and creativity is where you need to look for your new relationship. We're also still sticking with Taurus. We have Uranus, the planet of the unusual and unexpected, is also sitting in Taurus, and he's conjunct or holding hands Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is the planet of expansion, luck, and opportunity. Now, anytime we have Jupiter in a situation, we have to be careful that we don't over-exaggerate. Jupiter does like to expand everything, including waistlines. So, Jupiter can sometimes give us I was going to say an underdeveloped sense of security. It's not that. It's an overdeveloped sense of security where we think we're bigger than Ben-Hur, that we can achieve anything, that we don't stop and look at the practical side of things. Now, anytime Taurus is involved in something or the energies, the planets are sitting in Taurus, it is asking us to be cautious, because the Taurian energy is about what's mine's mine and what's yours is mine. It can be quite selfish, but it's also very practical when it comes to matters of finances and anything connected with food or the arts. So it's asking us to be practical and logical, not necessarily be too stubborn and pig-headed here, because you've got Uranus there first. Uranus is like the bolt of lightning. It comes out of nowhere. It can sort of strike the ground when we least expect it, and it can create either good things or bad things. It very rarely sits in the middle. It's either one or the other. And it's very sudden, it's very deliberate, it's very definite. Now, when you've got that sitting in Taurus, it's asking you not to be so stubborn, so fixed on an idea. Maybe look at another possibility. If you don't, Uranus can come along here and strike the ground and say, well, this is what you deserve. And particularly if you're being a little bit greedy or not willing to share, which is very difficult when something is in Taurus, that, it could very well be something could go the other way. I mean, on the flip side, yes, it can create opportunities out of nowhere. It can create wonderful new beginnings, wonderful new luck, opportunities and expansion and things that you really, truly deserve. And I suppose it comes back to, do you deserve it? And I think that's the key here. It's not a matter of, I can look at a chart as being an astrologer and say to you, oh, well, Uranus and conjunct Jupiter is going to work specifically this way in your chart. How do I know what is on your soul's journey and what you actually deserve? Yes, I can interpret the information. I can give you my best interpretation of what I see, but I can't guarantee how Uranus conjunct Jupiter is going to work in any personal chart for any person on the planet, including myself. So it's about what we deserve. So be very, very careful if you're starting something new in this next week, or you've got something really major on, and you're one of those signs that I talked about, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, or the opposite sign of Scorpio. For the rest of us, it sort of gets a lot more watered down. But if you're one of those four signs, please be very careful. Please make sure that you're doing everything in a good, kind heart way, that you're not trying to be stubborn, pig-headed, steal something or take something from someone else or take something that doesn't belong to you. Because let me assure you, if you are, then Uranus will come along and slap you over the head in a very major way. So, and on the flip side, as I said, it can bring the greatest rewards. If you're a very humble, caring, giving sort of person and just ambling along in life, trying to do your very best and doing it with a kind heart and doing it for all the right reasons, then you may just have something land in your lap that's just almost, I don't believe that this is happening. What did I do to deserve this? I'm very grateful. I'm very thankful. So just be aware of which camp you're going to be sitting in. Now we're moving on to Neptune. Neptune is sitting in Pisces at the moment. Now, Neptune also rules Pisces. It's coming to the last couple of degrees of being in Pisces. So Neptune's really going to ramp things up now. Now, a lot of times people describe Neptune as being sort of an illusion or delusion planet, sometimes a little bit deceptive, sometimes not sort of showing us the way forward. But Neptune's role here is to clear the fog, is to be able to enable us to see clearly now. It's like all the deception, all the wool being pulled over your eyes is now clearing. It's clearing up, that we can start to see everybody and all the players in a particular situation for who they are. So we're talking about Pisces, we're talking about Cancer, we're talking about Scorpio, and we're also talking about the opposite sign of Virgo. So these are the four major players there. For the rest of us, it's just going to wash over us. It's going to be a very gentle ebb and tide of the flow of the water. Now, Neptune here is conjunct or holding hands Mars, the planet of action, but Mars is sitting in the next sign of Aries. So this makes it a tricky sort of holding hand situation, because you've got one hand in water and we've got one hand in fire. So Mars is here saying, okay, I'm geared up, I'm ready, let's go to battle. Mars is the planet of action. It's the one that makes us get out of bed of a morning, that says, okay, this is what we're going to do today. We're going to move forward. And we need to be very aware of that. So we need to be very careful. If you've been doing anything deceptive, then Mars is going to blow it right out of the water now. You're going to be blown out of the water to be shown for the naughty, nasty person that you've been. If you've been a good person and been doing everything honestly, then this is going to catapult things forward in a way that you couldn't believe. Now, before we wrap it up, I really want to talk about this final part, which is the moon, the emotional planet, which moves every 36 hours, it moves into another sign. Now, it's conjunct or holding hands Pluto at the moment in Aquarius. Now, there hasn't been enough research, in my opinion, yet done on how Pluto is going to work in Aquarius. It's still very new. It's going to be there for a very, very long time. So we've got a long time to sort of sit back and watch and observe. But when you've got the moon here, the moon is the emotional planet. Now, when anything's sitting in Aquarius, it's asking you to take the emotion out of the situation. Aquarians are quite often seen as cold and calculating. They're not necessarily cold and calculating. They just don't wear their emotions on their sleeve. They wear them in their tummy, and they try and put on this brave front that, you know, nothing's going to, I'm as cool as a cucumber, nothing's going to bother me. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. Now, with the moon sitting here conjunct or holding hands Pluto in Aquarius, it's asking us to really dig deep, and particularly for the air signs, which is Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra, and the opposite sign of Leo. It's asking you to sort of not necessarily wear your heart on your sleeve, but make sure that you're doing what you're doing for the right reasons. It's got to sit comfortably in your tummy, not necessarily because someone else has told you this is the way that it's going to be. Now, the Aquarian energy can be sort of a little bit know-it-all sometimes. So Pluto here is trying to show his little bit of strength and saying, look, I know the situation. I know the players in the situation. I know where things are coming from. And I also know that sometimes people are a little bit cold and abrasive, and that's not necessarily the way to come across, particularly in an important situation. So it's asking you for a little bit of softness. Now, this may be a little bit difficult because you're trying to come across as being strong and knowing the situation inside out and back to front and be very convincing. And it's almost like Pluto says, hang on a minute, you're not truthful here. I can see that you're not really being your authentic self. So if you've got anything to do with, you know, the moon and Pluto over the next few days, be very careful. Make sure that you are really putting your authentic self on, because Pluto will show and people will pick it up that you are not being your authentic self, that you're just being, you know, you're reading a script instead of being truly who you are. So, you know, finally, I'm going to wrap up with the North Node, which is not a planet. It's the moon's way of showing us the way to move forward. Luckily for all of us, Mercury has now gone direct. So Mercury's in Aries, Mercury's in full flight, Mercury's sort of getting his point across in a very definite, positive sort of way. So with the North Node showing a conjunction or holding hands here, the North Node is showing us the way forward through communication, through the Aries energy of me first, being very upfront, straight out, spitting it out, warts and all, this is it, this is how it is, and that's what we're looking for this week. So if you're a fire sign, that's really positive. So we're looking at Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, and the opposite sign of Libra, and it just washes over the remaining signs. So we're going to take our first caller, which is Rachel in St. Joseph in Missouri. Oh,
Hello.
hi, Rachel, is it? Or Michelle?
Y-
Oh,
It's
Rochelle, I beg
Michelle.
your pardon. I'm sorry, I didn't read the screen properly. Rochelle, how can I help you,
It's
sweetie?
okay. Yeah, just anything that might come through for me, hon.
What was your question again, sweetie?
Oh, just anything general or anything that might come through for me.
Okay. Yes, sure. First thing that they were showing me was that you're coming up for a series of endings, changes, and transformations, Rochelle. So I'm taking from that in the last 6 to 8 months that you've been really working on yourself and really working on trying to get your life in a direction that you feel is right for you. Is that what you've been doing?
Correct.
Yeah. They're showing me this next little bit is going to feel like the hardest bit. And it's like, some days you're going to get out of bed and sort of feel as if you've already run the marathon during the night. And I'm going to say to you, you probably have. I think that they're sort of taking you on board from the other side and sort of taking you over there and showing you a little bit of a sneaky preview of what's to come. And you come back and you wake up in the morning and you think, gee, I feel tired. I feel like I've been awake all night. And it's sort of, in a
Mm-hmm.
sense, you have been awake while you've been asleep. So don't be disturbed by that or alarmed by that. What that is when you have those couple of flashes like that where you really feel tired, then know that things are moving quite quickly then. Like, keep your eyes and your ears open that there's something wonderful just around the corner. It's like they're gearing you up, they're getting you ready. Have you just moved house?
No. I'm
Have
I'm
you
I'm wanting to. We're planning on trying to move when they get this house finished. They're still working on it. They got to get it put back together, and then we're going to plan on moving.
Oh, good, because they were showing me a move and they were showing me that was like the next major step forward. It was like the giant leap forward. And that's why I thought, well, I might ask whether you've just moved or not, because what they were showing me behind the move is like I can open the floodgates up to a lot of happiness. Like things are starting to come in really, really well after that. So don't put too much pressure on yourself. If you can't move till, say, October, that's fine. There's no race to get there. Just know that you're in the right direction of where you need to be going. Your energy levels are starting to pick up and things in your life are starting to become, I'm hesitant to say easier. I'm going to say clearer. It's like exactly what's ahead of you now. You know what effort you've got to put in to achieve X, Y, Z. So that's not necessarily easier, but it's clearer. And it's easier in a sense that you know the steps that you need to take to achieve that. And I think that's the good thing. It's really interesting because this last 3 years, Rochelle, I'm going to say have been sort of up and down like a yo-yo for you. Every time you thought you got on the track, something came along and bowled you over and you thought, well, hang on a minute, I thought I was on the right path and now I see I've got to go a different direction or make some modifications. None of that was wrong. All of that was moving things along at a faster pace to get you to where you need to go. So the remainder of this year is just sort of tidying things up, getting things ready, and 2025 is going to be the year where you and your family will really shine. So I hope that's helped you because you've really been up against it, but things are starting to slowly move forward now, Rochelle, and it's positive. It's really exciting. So believe in yourself, follow your gut feelings because they're not wrong, and don't rule anything in or out. Anything's possible at the moment. You've got lots of opportunities of things, really good things coming your way in the next 12 to 18 months. So that's where we're going to leave Rochelle. Now, this is going to be tricky. I'm going to probably get this name wrong, and I'll apologize. Simbra in Evans in Georgia. So I apologize. I'm sure I've got it wrong. How can I help you today, sweetie?
Oh, it's Cimbria, and it's okay.
What
One
a
of a
pretty
kind.
name.
Thank you.
No, it is a really pretty name.
I just basically figured a general reading.
Okay. General
didn't have,
readings
like, a
are
specific
something that,
question.
in the short time that we've got, that's why I usually ask, do you have a question, so that I make sure I answer if there's something particularly pressing that you want to know. Cimbria, it's really interesting. Do you have a question?
Oh, go ahead with what you were saying.
Yeah, I was
Sorry.
just going to say, if you've got a question, I'm happy to answer that rather than just go into a general spin.
Lord have mercy, I was not prepared for that. gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm
Oh, usually
sitting
there's a
here stunned.
usually there's a reason why we ring into the show. Usually we want to know something. That's why I usually ask what your question is. But if you don't have a question, that's fine. I can just go into your soul and share with you what they give me. That's fine.
That'd be great. I'm not
Okay.
prepared for a question. I can't
No,
think of
that's
one.
fine. That's fine. I'm sorry to put you on the spot like that. First thing that they're showing me is that you're too tough on yourself. It's time I think we've got to loosen up. You've got to stop being the taskmaster on yourself. Why have you been so tough on yourself, particularly in this last 18 months?
Hmm.
Is it because you felt that you needed to be to achieve where you want to go? But they're sort of showing me we've got to ease up a little bit. Like you can turn around and give yourself a pat and a pack and packet of gold stars and say, I've done job well done. You don't always have to be so harsh on yourself. They're also
I just
showing me
haven't got
that
where
you're
I want to
limited.
go.
No, I know. Yeah, but if you keep being so tough on yourself, I don't think you're going to achieve what you want to achieve. Like it's like we're going to be limiting ourselves, and I don't want to see that.
Okay.
The other thing that they were showing me was that you're not opening yourself up enough to love. Now, that doesn't mean you're not in a relationship. It sort of means as if you're walking around as if you've got a straitjacket on all the time. You don't want to be hurt. You don't want this. You don't want that. But you're blocking things that can come towards you. Again, I think it's that limitation, whether it's been conscious or unconscious, that you've put on yourself, that's sort of blocking things from coming towards you. And it's easy for me to sit here and say, because I'm not you. I'm not the one that's doing it to myself. I have done in the past. But, it's something that I think that when we've had a few knocks in life, we sort of get up and dust ourselves off and say, well, it's not going to happen again. I'm not going to let this happen again and that. And, I'm not going to get hurt again in love and all those sort of things. And we put these protective barriers up, but we forget to loosen them off after a while, and they just intensify and become more stiff or more rigid. I want you to sort of consciously try and remove some of those barriers, because you are a beautiful person and there's a lot of wonderful things that can come towards you, but they're like really, really slow, because it's almost like you're unconsciously blocking them. And I want to break those shackles away. Did you lose somebody that was really close to you in this last 18 months to 2 years that really sort of made you stop in your tracks and think, gee, life is too short? Because they're showing me blocked grief.
Mm, not like, I don't think losing people to death, because death to me is just the next beginning. And
Yes, well,
I don't
but there's
fear it.
something there.
So,
There's something there that's blocked. It's like you haven't allowed yourself to do the human stuff, do the tears, do the whatevers with the grief. That's the way they were showing it to me. It's like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, look, I understand your belief systems in death. I have the same one, but we still have to be human. We still have to release the tears or the sadness or something, and they were showing me about 18 months to 2 years ago. There was somebody there that you lost, that you might have known that they were coming to the end of their time on earth and you were sort of prepared for it, but you didn't allow yourself to go through that human side of releasing the tears. And they're saying to me they've got to be released in some form or another. That's part of what's blocking you or preventing you from moving forward. And it's not a conscious thing that you've done. It was just sort of like, oh, well, I knew that their time was coming to an end, and, you celebrated their
when
life in your way and sort of celebrated the fact that they're no longer in pain. And that's good, or suffering, but
when was
we
that
need to
timeline?
release on the physical. Pardon?
When did you say the timeline was for
18
the
months
loss?
to 2 years. About 18 months to 2 years ago was what they were showing me.
Okay, I haven't lost anybody since like 2002.
Right. Okay. Look, I have
I'm
to go with
sorry.
what I'm being given. Sometimes things don't make any sense to us at the time, and something will come to you later, and you go, "Aha, that's what she was talking about." That's what they were showing me. I'm not going to take it back to 2002. This was more recent than that. But anyway, you've got a lot of good things coming up in your life now, and it's time to sort of just break those shackles and sort of embrace life and say, I deserve a lot more of the nicer things to come towards me now, that I'm opening myself up to what the universe wants to bring. So that's where we're going to leave that, caller. It's really interesting sometimes, when I put somebody on the spot, we can't always think at that split second of what it is that the person is sharing with them, the psychic or the medium is sharing with them, and then later we have that aha moment and we think, oh yes, now I know what they were talking about. Spirit doesn't always come through with definite directions, or let's go down to the car lot and buy a green car. They give us things in like a jigsaw puzzle that we need to piece together. And sometimes it can be difficult when you weren't expecting a message in that way to put it into what you were expecting. And that's why I always ask on the show, do you have a question? So if you're going to phone in next week, make sure you have your question, because then I can get to something that you really want an answer to, and not leave you in a situation where you've got to go back and rack your brains and try and work it out. So this week I want to leave you with a beautiful song back from 1993. I know I'm showing my age when I bring up older songs all the time, but sometimes some songs resonate with you, that they leave a special place in your heart, that they sort of mean something. And when you hear that again and you think, aha, now I know why I liked that song all that time ago, because it has a special place in your heart. And this way, I want to leave you with a very, very beautiful love song by a very nice American singer. And his name is Joshua Kadison, and it's Beautiful in My Eyes. It's one of the most beautiful love songs I think that was ever written. And when you look at the film clip, you see the passion and the joy and it radiating from his soul, that how he truly believed every word he sang in this song. And it's a very, very beautiful song. He's one of my favourite singers, actually. I like a lot of diverse sort of music, but, sometimes I just want to sort of slow things down and put on something that really has meaning, like this song, Beautiful in My Eyes. So until next week, you're all beautiful in our eyes. We'll leave you with Joshua Kadison. Bye for now.